What's up everyone, it's Scotty with MoneyVest. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, and over the weekend, so since today's Friday, so over the next 3 days, I will be posting videos related to Enphase, Tesla, Meta, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon. Unemployment numbers we're going to break down since they came out today, and they came in a little bit lighter than what the expectations were. Unemployment rate did go up a little bit by 0.1%, so 3.9% is where we're at. And also go over the entire market update with the technical update on Magnificent 7 as well. So I've got a lot of videos in the pipeline. I'm pretty much going to be bombarding you with a ton of videos over the next 3 days, kind of catching up on everything, because my focus obviously has been very much on the MoneyVest website. In the month of May, we're really trying to push and get to the beta launch here by the end of this month, and then we'll need just a couple more weeks to kind of test and fix all the bugs, and then make it ready for all the members so that you can utilize again at least the market dashboard, calculators, our models, as well as our MoneyVest metrics, and of course a community dashboard as well. So if you want to get access to all that, link's going to be down below. We'd love to have you on board. And as always, make sure that you drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you're just joining us for the first time. And also there is, again, the first week of the month, the best time to join our Patreon. You get access to all the members only videos, including my 30 stock shopping list, and more importantly, the MoneyVest Index, which I believe is going to offer a ton of value. When I say it is going to be a game changer, it is quite literally been a game changer for myself when it comes to decision making and how to be more aggressive in the markets and when to really be more aggressive in the market. So again, link's going to be down below. We'd love to have you on board. So first things first, let's talk a little bit about AMD's numbers. The numbers overall, I think, were pretty solid. So if you come over to AMD's numbers, so earnings beat of 62 cents per share versus 61 cents. And revenue just came in very shy of expectations. Now, I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to admit when I was wrong. So we did have a couple trade ideas on AMD. Both of them failed because a breakdown happened for Advanced Micro Devices. So you'll notice that this right here, previous resistance, failed to validate as a support. We are consolidating sideways for a couple days after the huge sell-off of 8%. And then we consolidated sideways again at that next support down in the 160s. And then we failed for the second time and sold back down once again. We did see a little bit of a recovery here for AMD, about 11.5%. And then we broke down once again almost 9% after the earnings came out. And now we're in that tier 3 support at 130s. Right now, of course, in the 140s, it is bounced back higher a little bit, up over 1% on the day, but yesterday's low was about 140, 141, but this right here inside this green rectangle is basically where that next support sits. We're going to come back to the technicals here, but really I want to go over the numbers first. And if you take a look at the GAAP versus non-GAAP numbers, because we've had a lot of adjustments, Xilinx acquisition, a lot of one-time expenses for AMD, which is why the GAAP numbers obviously were not as great as non-GAAP, but we did see revenue up 2% on a year-over-year basis to 5.4 billion. Gross profit was 2.5 billion. That was up 9% on a year-over-year basis. Gross margin expanded by about 3 percentage points, and we did have net income, so bottom line, swinging back to a profitability from losses of last year, and operating margins of about 1%, so up 4 percentage points, and of course earnings per share 7 cents per share. On a non-GAAP basis though, of course, everything was up quite well. I wouldn't say growth, but I would say decently well. So up 2%, revenue up 7%, gross profit up 10% in operating expenses. So a little bit higher than what the revenue and the gross profit was, which is why, of course, the operating income and net income was up only 3 to 4%. So very flat quarter, as you like to call it, and 62 cents per share in earnings per share, up 3% on a year-over-year basis. But of course, quarter over quarter, everything was mostly down because fourth quarter of 23 was quite literally very strong for Advanced Micro Devices. Now, current outlooks. So AMD's outlook statements are based on current expectations, of course, and the following statements are forward-looking. For second quarter 2024, AMD expects revenue to be approximately $5.7 billion, give or take $300 million. At the midpoint of the revenue range, this represents a year-over-year growth of approximately 6% and sequentially of approximately 4%. So these are quite literally not that great numbers. And I think one of the reasons why I did exit out of AMD at higher prices is because of the fact that it was trading at valuations that I wasn't comfortable buying at and I wasn't comfortable holding at, because Advanced Micro Devices, as you know, has been part of this channel for a very long time. It's had a very soft corner in my heart because it's a company that was very undervalued, underrated for the longest time. We've been talking about AMD since it was in the 50s and 60s, and then it rallied up to $220, right? So all-time highs of 220. I remember talking about Advanced Micro Devices well in the 50s and 60s, and since then we've seen a massive 300% gain. But of course, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to exit with a nice profit on this company, and now we can start looking into this again as it's already dropped over 37%. But still, we'll take a look at the valuation, we'll take a look at the market cap, right now 240 billion, and does it actually make sense to be a buyer at these prices? It makes sense from a trade idea standpoint, but does it make sense from a long-term investment standpoint or not? Because the growth really has not been super strong for the company, nowhere near close to what we have been seeing for NVIDIA. So this right here, 3 months ending, again, net revenues coming in at around 5.4 billion, cost of sales 2.6, so gross profit was sitting at just under 2.6 billion. That's a 47% margin, and bottom line net income we're looking at around 123 million. These are GAAP numbers, and then of course shares outstanding 1.6 billion, 8 to 7 cents per share in earnings per share for the company. Now, when it comes to the balance sheet continues to be super strong. We're looking at $4.1 billion of cash and $1.8 billion of short-term investments, so that's about 5.9, almost $6 billion in cash and marketable securities. And then we've got long-term debt. So if you come over to liabilities, long-term debt, net of current portion, 1.7 billion, and current portion of long-term debt, 750 million. So call it $2.4 billion combined is what their long-term debt is. So they've got plenty of cash, liquidity positions pretty strong. Total assets also exceed total liabilities. Current ratio is pretty good. So no problems there. I think AMD's almost always had a very unique position when it comes to the balance sheet. Now, when it comes to uniquely positioned in artificial intelligence, so they've got a lot of new products being launched. And I think really the questions is going to be how well these products actually do compared to, of course, NVIDIA's processors and GPUs, and not to mention, how AMD is going to be positioning itself with artificial intelligence, right? So AMD Instinct MI300 accelerators, that's going to be for HPC. Cloud, we've got AMD Instinct MI300X. Enterprise solutions, we've got PC, of course, AMD Ryzen 8040. Mobile processors for Ryzen AI, and then embedded for, of course, cloud services as well. Single chip intelligence at the edge for all embedded markets. So there's a lot that AMD has to catch up to when it comes to artificial intelligence. NVIDIA clearly does have a very, very strong lead with a significant amount of market share when it comes to AI as a chip designer. But AMD is also going to be catching up fairly soon. And, that was one of the reasons why we were bullish in the, I believe in the 150s, 160s when it was trading at the moment. I think it was last year, I did a couple videos talking about how NVIDIA better watch out. AMD's coming up very strong. And that was one of the reasons why AMD did rally the way it did. Basically kickstarted this rally from $93 to $220, right? That was a 143% gain. I remember talking about this back in October, November, December. NVIDIA better watch out. Literally, those were the titles of the video, as they have done really well with some launches. But at the same time, they're taking time to really get going here because the revenue and the numbers are not showing that type of growth. And at the very core, everything, all the stories we tell ourselves, all comes down to the numbers. It all comes down to how well the numbers are going to be. Is the company going to be able to grow? Is it going to be able to execute? Everything is going to be shown to us in the numbers. Numbers will tell us the full story. We can tell all different types of stories to ourselves. This has happened with Tesla. It's even happening with NVIDIA. It's happening with a lot of companies that we tell ourselves stories that, this company has the potential to do this or that. This is going to be huge. This is a new market for the company. They're going to be, doing this, that, this. Bottom line is, numbers will tell us the full story. If the company is able to actually execute, gain market share, their people love their products, numbers will show them that. Number will show us, right? So that's really what it comes down to. At the end of the day, it's really all about the numbers that matters to the market. None of the stories are worth looking into. So this right here is going to be the first quarter of 2024. So when it comes to the first quarter 2024, again, revenue 5.5 billion, up 2% on a year-over-year basis. We've already covered that. Gross margins also expanding, GAAP, non-GAAP basis. This is the balance sheet of the of AMD, of course, pretty strong. Financial outlook, we've already covered. Operating expenses 1.8 billion, 5.7 billion in the second quarter, give or take about 300 million. That's going to be plus minus 6 to 8% on a year-over-year basis. Again, not super high growth here. But then if you take a really look at the overall profitability for Advanced Micro Devices, right? So if we essentially take into account, profitability of on a non-GAAP basis, that is what I'm talking about. So 62 times 4, we are looking at earnings per share of about $2.48. So 248. We're looking at net income of about $4 billion, right? So if you take into account, let's say, $5 billion, right, just to be a little bit more optimistic with Advanced Micro Devices picking up on their earnings on a non-GAAP basis over the next 2 to 3 quarters, if you plug in $5 billion here, and then if you apply, let's say, a growth rate of about 20%, even though right now the growth rate is not that high. I mean, in fact, if you take a look at the non-GAAP earnings per share growth for the company this quarter, we basically saw EPS growth of about 3%, right? So that's basically nothing. But again, they are dealing with a lot of headwinds for the demand that's coming in for artificial intelligence, not a lot of new products that are being launched. So we really have to wait and see how or what the feedback is for their artificial intelligence chips and products that they're launching. So let's say 20% is going to be that growth rate on a conservative basis. Multiple wise, they're obviously trading at a much higher multiple now. So if you come over to the valuation tab, you're looking at statistics, 210 times earnings multiple, a little over 10 times sales, and 138 times cash flow. I never thought I'd say this, and I really hate to say it. It hurts me to say this, but Advanced Micro Devices is overvalued right now. AMD is overvalued at these prices. I don't care what anybody else says, but unfortunately it is overvalued at the moment, because we are looking at 210 times earnings. I mean, this is a stock that I've absolutely loved for the longest time. This is a company that, as you already know, if you've been part of the channel for 3 to 4 years, this has been a big part of our channel because we have loved what AMD is doing. We've loved what Lisa Su has been implementing at AMD. But the bottom line is that now, at this stage, this stock unfortunately is very expensive. So 210 times, of course, earnings, 10 times sales, very high. So, if you once again go back to the drawing board, give them a 20% growth rate, even if I give them, let's say, a 25 or let's say 30 times multiple, and a 12% discount rate, 10% margin of safety, no share buyback, we're looking at least $118 for AMD, and that's going to be about a 20% sell-off from these levels, and from all-time highs at $118, we're looking at least a 49 to 50%, sell-off, right? So that's really where I would be once again interested to start looking into AMD. I would still argue that the P multiple is high at 30 times. If I go with 28 or 26, now we're looking at low 100s. So low 100s is really where I would be somewhat interested in conservative PE, conservative growth rate. So yeah, that's where I would be with Advanced Micro Devices. But from a trading perspective, I think it is incredibly oversold. So, we've got a stock that has been selling off on a weekly time frame. RSI MACD has been coming down, and a much stronger support now sitting in the 130s for Advanced Micro Devices. Even on the daily time frame, you can see that it's been, selling off, oversold RSI, oversold MACD. So keep a close eye in the 130s here, 133, 134 for a potential reversal there. But like I said, for me, much stronger support, much better buying opportunity sits here in the low 100s. So even if I mark out a range, that's going to be this price point right over there. It's kind of aligned with that previous support. This is really the October lows that we're talking now for Advanced Micro Devices, because I hate to say it, but AMD is overvalued at these prices given the earnings and the sales, the revenue. Because we're looking at, AMD as a chip company, semiconductor company, does not, in my opinion, deserve to be trading at about 10.5, 11 times sales at the moment. NVIDIA doesn't either. I think these semiconductor stocks in general are priced very expensively. If you come take a look at NVIDIA, 34 times sales. But the problem, the thing is that their profitability is so dang high that they're now only trading at 70 times earnings. So there's not a lot of huge gap here between the sales and the earnings multiple. But with AMD, we've got 10.5, 11 times sales with a 200 times earnings multiple on a gap basis. So, but even if you do the math here, let's say 150 divided by, what was the number that we're looking at? 150 divided by $2.48. We're looking at 60 times earnings multiple. Even then, I would argue is a little bit higher for Advanced Micro Devices for a company that earnings growth isn't really that high. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. AMD, like I said, I love. It is a fantastic business. It's a great company, and that's the beauty of investing, right? You can love the company, you can love the products, but if it's trading too high, if it's too rich, too expensive, it doesn't make for a good investment. right? So we have to be very objective. We have to keep our emotions aside and really look at the company for what it is based on the fundamentals and the numbers. So, hope you all enjoyed this video, found it helpful. Make sure that you drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Again, links to our Discord and Patreon is going to be down below. The first week of the month is the best time to join. And as always, happy investing. I'll see you all in the next video.